Well, I'm out here working on one of the next steps. Is it the next step? I don't know, but this is the assembly I got, and it's just an eBay cheapie. It was like 175 bucks. Came with the master cylinder, the combo valve, the tubing to go between the two, the bracketry, stuff like that. It came with a boot here and a shorter and a longer arm. But I spent a couple of hours online, I think, at least an hour, trying to figure out whether or not this plate goes inside the firewall or outside the firewall, engine side. And then it finally dawned on me when I came down and looked at it that it doesn't matter because it's so thin, it's not going to throw any of the dimensions off or anything. And this is what holds the rubber boot. Okay, obviously no point in having that on there in the way right now. So it holds the rubber boot, and I'll just put it on the engine side of the firewall. That'll just be way easier because I've already got the bracket mounted. And since there's studs in the bracket holding it to the firewall, I would have to pull that entire bracket out in order to put this on the inside. No point. No point. Now, it would be nice to have some kind of gasket here to seal between this and the firewall. So I might have to grab some thin foam and fab one of those up. Since I'm not in a huge hurry and it may still take me a little longer to get this done, that might be one of my first projects on the laser. Anyway, the reason I didn't plan on videotaping any of this stuff because there's lots of videos out there about people putting these in. The thing is there's at least 2 that I watched where they had issues with these arms, and even with the shortest arm, and this is on A-bodies, they had to cut this and like section out an inch of it and weld it back together. I don't know if I'm going to have that problem because I've measured from here to here and from the firewall to the hole in the brake pedal when the brake pedal is sitting at 6 inches from the back of the pedal of the floorboard. Now they say from the carpet. I don't have any carpet in there. 6 inches from the floorboard, close enough. I don't want it any higher than that. But the big issue, and I only saw one person talk about it or address it, they didn't follow through on exactly what they did to fix it. So I guess I'm figuring it out. So if I just put that plate there, just to sit there to measure against, as if that's close enough to the firewall. Okay, this piece here that should be flush with the bracket, because that's the firewall, we're looking at every bit of 3/4 of an inch. Which means this rod down in here, this threaded rod here, because this rod end is threaded in all the way that far, basically, and then I back it off just a hair so it's not bound down on the end of the threads inside there. And so the springs inside here are going to push this out. So even if I apply a vacuum, it could sit there on the firewall, but I don't want it activating this. Having it push in 3/4 of an inch is most likely enough to cause this to activate. Okay, it may not be enough to push the rod. I'm not sure. It should be pretty dang close, but it's so hard to push that I haven't been able to check or measure that. So I basically just got to figure that this can't be that far into the firewall, because the guy talked about how he was going to have to cut a hole in the firewall or something. And maybe he did cut the rod. I'm not exactly sure. He didn't follow through and show that part. So I think what I'm going to end up having to do is I'm gonna do it in an inch, okay? Because 3/4 of an inch just barely clears that. Okay. And so an inch gives me just a little bit more. I can get just a little bit more space there. And the other thing it does too then is it helps bring this arm in even a little bit more, just a tiny bit, because of the way it's the pivot's down here. So if that hole were right in the middle between these two, it would pull this in half as much as it pulls the top in. So by pulling it in 3/8 of an inch, hopefully that doesn't make it too short. Push come to shove, if I have to, I will make an adjustable arm, or I could take it apart, reverse engineer it, and send the file off to Send Cut Send and have them cut me a new one. And I could even pay them to powder coat it. One piece at a time like that's not really cheap. Or not as cost effective as I would like it to be. So I can't think of any reason, any way to get around that. I think I am going to take this bracket back off and that stuff and see just how hard it is to push that in, because I got to measure the other side and make sure that before I assemble it with the master cylinder, I need to make sure that that rod is right there at the master cylinder. You don't want it bouncing around and touching, but you also don't want it pushing it in any, because if it's too long and it, anyway, I'm probably going to explain that again when I get to that point. If I get to that point. And, you know, if I'm really reading this wrong and screw it up, I don't have to buy the whole $175 kit again. I just got to buy another brake booster. Or I have to buy just another rod. And I don't know if this rod is replaceable or not. But the boot doesn't really want to come off. I can pull it off this way, and then you can see there's a, well, yep, okay. That's going to be a bit of a challenge to get that back down in there. Okay. But it's got foam here that's kind of holding it in the center. Evidently this won't come off because there is a clip in there. So that's grabbing and pushing something in. So obviously this is not going to, it's not going to want to come out. Okay, so I'm at just under 1 5/8 inches. And I have no clue if this can be adjusted by turning it in. So let's see, I'm pretty sure it just swivels. Yeah, it does not appear to be going in. I haven't played around a whole lot with power, with vacuum boosters, so I'm still at the exact same spot. Okay, so with that off, at least that way I'm not going to damage that. I'll probably throw a piece of cardboard over here. I'll grab this down a little lower, possibly maybe I'll put 2 of these nuts on and lock them, and then I can grab those with vice grips to hold that. And I'll probably cut it off with a zip wheel. I was thinking about it, and I could make a plate, a spacer, to bolt between, you know, the assembly, the bracket, and the firewall, and space it off, and that would gain me some of the clearance I needed. Excuse me. The problem is the studs are only 1 inch long, okay, which is way more than enough for mounting up the bracket that's there. And I'm sure I could even get away with, I know I could get away with making a 1/2 inch plate. But even with a 1/2 inch plate, I'm still going to have to cut this some to make it work. So I might as well take it all off of here. That's basically what I'm going to do, because that saves me from, I could go throw this on the scanner, you know, the scanner printer, take that image, put it into CAD, and put a sketch around it and scale that to exactly what the spacing is, and it would make a very simple spacer. You know, it'd be real easy to get that into CAD and then get the cam it and make it on the mill. But it's still, you know, a lot of extra work compared to, and then I still have to cut this. So I think I'm just going to cut this and call it good. I went and found another nut. It's a 3/8 24. Okay, so I've got them locked together there, and it is a good solid 1 inch in. So now what I do is I'm going to get a cutoff wheel. Almost anything would work. I could use a hacksaw, Dremel, a pneumatic cutoff wheel, a 4.5 inch grinder. I think I have a cutoff wheel on my 4.5 inch Ryobi cordless grinder. That just might be the easiest. That's probably what I'm going to use. You know, a pair of vice grips or something. I could take and clamp this end into the vise and cut it off, but then I got this end here that's, you know, going to want to fall off. That's the biggest punch I've got It's not big enough to go over the nuts, but, you know, close enough. I think I'll just put it in the middle. I don't, you know, I don't care if I scar the bench up a little bit. Oh yeah, look at that, nice. Wish me luck. Because basically, yeah, that might work. A pneumatic would have been easier to hold one-handed. Just a thought. Okay, and I was bright enough to put its nut, the shinier chrome one, on first. Not that it matters. So having two nuts on there, it should help with the threads. The shiny one's going to have to get pushed down into the chrome even a little bit further. Or into the, not the chrome. The chrome one's going to have to get pushed even a little bit further down into the foam in order to get the rod end on far enough. Okay, I'm going to go hit it with the wire wheel. See if I can pull some of that burr out and away. Well, that might have worked. Let's see. Oh yeah, I can easily thread the nut back on. So now the challenge, of course, is getting down in there far enough to lock it up against to get some kind of wrench in there to lock it up against this. Cool. That locked up. Now let's spin the nut back out. And luckily this body here is round and smaller than the wrench, so I can easily get the wrench in there at an angle. Because a crescent wrench can go that small but still have a much longer bite. Okay. And yes, I wanted that fairly snug because I don't want to have to tear this damn thing apart for a loose connection again. Hopefully that didn't cause any other problems. Oh. See what I did? You can't get that pin back in there once you put that together. Those will span far enough to put the washer on the inside. It fell out and I didn't see where it came from. But I'm going to assume it came from the outside. Yep. Because you don't want the cotter pin rubbing against the powder coated surface and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna give it a little push there. I'll try to remember, tighten that up later. And that was a fairly painless modification. I won't know for sure until I get it assembled. And yep, I got a good 1/8 of an inch of clearance there to the firewall. I like that. Now, let's get an idea if this goes straight out. Oh, 5 1/4. It was a hair over 5 1/4, and I'm pretty sure 5 1/4 was really close to what I measured in the car. Oh, I'm glad I didn't bother tightening that up too much. Next, what I need to put this back on. That pivot down there, I'm going to want to snug the nylock up on it more, but I don't want it, you know, jammed up on there hard. If it was a shoulder bolt, that would help, but it's not. I don't want to tighten these down until I get that, and I may actually wait until it's actually assembled in the car before I finish tightening these down. But I got to take them off again anyway right now. Well, I didn't think about it until I was recording for Instagram, and it dawned on I was taking it back apart because I got to put this rubber boot on. But it dawned on me, it's like, okay, I could have easily made this plate and made it solid and that stuff, because that would be better on the firewall than having 4 small standoffs. Okay, and once it all bolts together and that stuff, it would add more rigidity. But over here, it dawned on me, like I said, too late, and I had a bag of these. They came off end links from some Datsun parts I was making. Anyway, I could have put another 1/2 inch of spacers here, and I would have varied the length slightly enough so that the nut could get all the way on, and preferably a nylock or some kind of locking. Now I could just put some Loctite on there, which would be nice. I could shave a little bit off each of these and use them, but I think in the long run it would have been, I would have probably just done some aluminum ones. I've got some like 1 inch round, cut that off at a 1/2 inch with the right size hole in it. That would have been real nice. But as you can see, I think, is with the black on black, a little harder to see. If I put that up there, there is oh, there's 7/8 of an inch to the firewall there. Yeah. Okay, so that would be the better way to go. Make a 1/2 inch spacer for here, and even if you didn't do a full plate, okay, 2 bars over that would still be better than separate round ones. Because the challenge with the round ones, as far as I'm concerned, all right, you'd have to make them a good bit bigger, because like these, they don't really fit real well in there. They're a little too close. This is more what I had in mind for the aluminum, something a little bigger. This is 3/4, I think, and I thought I had some 1 inch, but maybe I do. But oh, I have some 1 inch hex stock. That would be cool. Anyway, it would spread the load out. Now, this would work great for up here. Okay. Because there's no real flexing here. All the load and flexing would be at the firewall. So down here, this would spread better. I still wouldn't want to do it down here. Now, for me personally, I have the aluminum, I have the CNC machine, stuff like that. Maybe I should scan this, and I could mill one of these just for grins and giggles, because I already cut that rod, so I can't use it on mine. It would be easy enough to do this, make this one, and I would probably go ahead and make the other one as well, because it's really not that big a deal, you know. But if somebody were producing them, they could do this with the spacers, and that would save the extra cost of the bigger plate. Basically, I'm doing this just because I didn't see a really concise, figured out way of, and not that this is the way to do it or anything. These are just my thoughts. I think the 2 spacers would really be a thing, and you could probably machine them and do them. They could be laser cut from Send Cut Send out of aluminum. and then whatever that price is, that just might do the trick. Given the option though, once it's explained to other guys who do this, who have it and stuff like that, they may still just opt to cut whatever they need to off of the rod there and put that back on. And you know, you could actually, considering the contact point really isn't that big a deal, you could mount it up there, mark where the contact point is, and just dimple the firewall with a ball peen or, you know, hammer or something like that. Not the full amount it would need, but at least some of it. And then you could probably get away with just a 1/2-inch plate down here. Well, or just a 1/2-inch spacers up here. I mean, you could literally get a 1/2-inch set of washers, stack them up to a 1/2 inch, put them in there. I think that's a 1/2 inch. I keep calling it a 1/2 inch. It's 5. This is spaced off 5/8 of an inch, so a 1/2 inch would be perfect.